Democrats and Republicans both frustrated while finding no common ground.
If we had a box of all the foreign money the Bidens took, it would have reached to the ceiling.
We found no evidence of wrongdoing by President Biden. If the Republicans had a smoking gun or even a dripping water pistol, they would be presenting it today.
But while President Joe Biden was the subject of today's hearing, first son Hunter Biden's business dealings took the spotlight.
The critical question facing the American people today is whether behind the smokescreen clouding the Biden family and associates' businesses was there or is there a fire?
Republicans insist there is plenty of fire. But constitutional law professor Jonathan Turley, also a Fox News contributor, says the Republicans have passed the threshold to launch the inquiry, though he says there's not yet enough to impeach.
I do not believe that the current evidence would support articles of impeachment. That is something that an inquiry has to establish.
An inquiry is a preliminary step, not yet a full impeachment. House Republicans say they have evidence that Hunter Biden received more than $250,000 that originated in China in 2019. The beneficiary address for the funds, the Delaware home of President Biden.
My Democrat colleagues say none of this is relevant because Joe Biden wasn't vice president while his family did these shady deals. Turns out that's complete and total.
Democrats voted twice, but failed to bring before them the man they believe is the source of most of the Joe Biden allegations.
Where in the world is Rudy Giuliani? This committee is afraid to bring him before us and put him on the record. Shame.
The White House pushed back, sending out emails once an hour insisting that Republicans should focus on keeping the government open as a shutdown looms in just a few days. Brett.
David Spahn up on Capitol Hill. David, thank you. Let's get some analysis now from Trey Gowdy, former congressman from South Carolina, and Andy McCarthy, former assistant U.S. attorney. Trey, let me start with you. I mean, you watched some of this hearing, went on for a long time. What about the first efforts down this road into inquiry?
Well, the evidentiary threshold for an impeachment inquiry is not very high. I mean, keep in mind, Brett, we all remember, I mean, what kind of spawned Crossfire Hurricane? It was a rumor and a bar. So how much evidence you need to begin to investigate is not very high. The witnesses, the GOP witnesses said, look, we're not there yet. Jonathan Turley's not there yet. They're House Republicans. Ken Buck is one who are not there from an evidentiary standpoint. But what they decided to do today was to launch a formal inquiry, and they need bank records, and they need tax returns, and they need access to documents that heretofore they don't have. So this is step number one, and the threshold is really, really low to cross over step number one.
Yeah. Andy, your thoughts?
I think, Brett, that they've been undone in a way in the political presentation of this by the very success of the committee inquiries. You know, if you knew nothing at all about Burisma or the influence peddling scheme or what have you, and you learned for the first time today that over a period of just 5 years, the Biden family, in a business that is Joe Biden selling access to him, raked in $24 million and did it in the way that they did it with no apparent value being exchanged for the money and it being funneled through all these LLCs and banking channels, you would be astonished. People's jaws would be hitting the floor. So, you know, when I hear today people say, well, where's the evidence? Where's the proof? I just think that where we are at this point is pretty astonishing in terms of what's been proved.
You know, Andy, I want to read a piece of what you wrote in National Review, the pre-office misconduct question in impeachment. The influence peddling scheme that is the crux of the impeachment inquiry, as Republicans have designed it, took place prior to 2019. Clearly, if a person was bribed by agents of a foreign power prior to becoming president, that person would still be owned and subject to blackmailing by the foreign power during his presidency. And that has come up numerous times about the question about when it happened, if they get down that road.
Yeah, Brett, I really am an adherent to former President Ford when he was minority leader in the House of Representatives, saying that an impeachable offense is whatever the majority of the House of Representatives decides it is under the circumstances. But even if you allow or entertain the idea that high crimes and misdemeanors have to be committed during the presidency, I don't see how that reasoning would apply to the separate impeachment avenues of bribery and treason. Bribery is mainly what the framers were worried about, because they were worried that the awesome powers of the presidency would be captured by foreign powers.
You know, Trey, the Devon Archer testimony, Hunter Biden's partner, business partner, obviously raised a lot of eyebrows. Majority counsel saying you keep saying the brand, but by the brand you mean the Biden family, correct? And Mr. Archer says correct. Representative Biggs, when you say the Biden family, you aren't talking about Dr. Jill or anybody else. You're talking about Joe Biden. Is that fair to say? Yes, he says, that's fair to say. Listen, I don't think about it as, Joe directly, but that's fair to say that he was selling the brand. Is it going to take a long time for them to get to the meat of this, to move on to another stop, or do you think that this could happen quickly?
No, I don't think it's going to happen quickly because the House Republicans don't have an enforcement mechanism. I mean, say they send a subpoena and the person sends it back to them as a paper airplane. You got to go to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia to hold someone in criminal contempt of Congress. I mean, you can go before an Article III judge and kind of make your case for your documents, but that takes forever. So they need bank records, and here's the other thing I think that they need. You can't engage in willful blindness. I mean, whether or not they can connect the dots straight to President Biden or Vice President Biden or private citizen Biden at the time, you can't just turn a blind eye to what your family members are doing. They need documents. Whether or not they're going to get them, I don't know. The Democrats won't help, and the DOJ is not going to prosecute people who don't comply.
There you go. Trey, Andy, we appreciate the time.